I'm building Cosworth from Fallout 4, and I'm going to show you the paint job that took him from this to this, using graphite powder and a little bit of elbow grease. So I'm going to start off with probably the ugliest piece in the entire robot. On this piece, you can see all the deep layer lines, and I chose this piece because I wanted to show you that even with a piece as bad as this, you can still get nice, smooth, and clean results. So let's jump right into it. So we're going to be starting off with some coarse 120 grit sandpaper here. I'm using this coarser grit sandpaper because I really want to knock these layer lines down as much as possible on this first pass. And for that reason, the first pass is probably the hardest part of this entire process. Now with my layer lines knocked down and the entire piece scuffed, I can move on to 220 grit. So here's where the process gets much easier. On these subsequent passes, you can start sanding as if you're rubbing in some smooth cocoa butter. No need for crazy amounts of pressure here. Just make sure the piece is getting noticeably smoother in the parts you've already sanded. And with that, we can move on to 400 grit. And once again, it's the exact same process. Sand and sand. There's really not much else to it. Once you're done with your 400 grit pass, you're gonna wanna wash the piece off. I've already done it here, but basically what I did was I ran it under some warm water and let it air dry. I find that drying with paper towels or non-specialized rags will leave lint and dust particles on the piece, and that makes for a terrible finish.
If you made it this far, be a good viewer and like and subscribe. Maybe even leave a comment. You'll be rewarded handsomely.
Once your piece is completely dry, and I mean completely dry, we're gonna go in with this Rust-Oleum Sandable Filler Primer. Here you can see I'm spray painting in a waving motion. Left and right, left and right. You never want to focus your spray painting in one spot or else it'll cause dripping. Now, since we're spray painting primer, we can sand it later, so it's not as crucial right now, but it's still good practice. And it's also good to get some nice, even coats. You get a nice coat, wait a few seconds for that to dry, then get another coat. That's also a good way to avoid drips. Once the primer's dry to the touch, you can go ahead and start sanding it with some 400 grit sandpaper. And finally, we'll finish up with an 800 grit wet sand. And once again, not too much pressure here, and you'll know you're doing it right when you can see the small particles of the primer mix in with the water. So after that final pass of 800 grit wet sanding, we can finally go ahead and wash this off, let it dry just like before, and then we'll finally be ready for our first coat of real paint. So for the base coat, we're going to be using this black Rust-Oleum Gloss Protective Enamel. So this paint here is what the graphite particles are going to stick onto to create that chrome shiny surface. And the technique is just like before, waving motion left and right. Don't concentrate in one area or you'll get drips. It was kind of hard to see my reflection in Pro Video mode, so I switched over to regular camera mode, and here you can see me. The idea is that the graphite powder will take to whatever surface is underneath, so you want to make sure that your black glossy base coat is as shiny and smooth as possible. Once the paint is set just enough to still be sticky, but not peel off when you rub your finger against it, it's ready to apply the graphite. The graphite powder I'll be using for this is this Cretacolor graphite powder, which you can find on Amazon. Now when you begin, you're just going to want to take your cotton ball and just lightly dip it in to get some graphite powder on there. For the best results, you really want to apply a decent amount of pressure and rub the graphite powder on in small, tight circles. This will ensure that the graphite powder particles fully embed themselves into the gloss black base. Otherwise, you'll get a dull gunmetal look, unless that's what you're going for, which is also cool too. And here I am applying the exact same method to the dome. Remember, small, tight circles with a decent amount of pressure to fully embed the graphite powder into the base.
I sincerely hope that you enjoyed the video. If so, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Otherwise, you will not be a part of the grand future I have for the Mojave. For your own safety, don't be an imbecile.